going to coat the dough like this, okay? And you're going to make sure that you are flattening this and pulling out the edges. Can everyone see what I'm doing? Come on over here if you can. It needs to have nice, straight edges. Make sure also you are not stuck on the bottom. Very, very important. This dough came out beautiful. Shh. You guys can see today that we used all the flour it called for, but that does not necessarily mean every single time. This is what you want your dough to feel like. Okay, now most of you probably would have said that's too sticky, like this. But remember, when we coat this, is this measured? Oh, you dropped it.
No, this is
when you coat this with extra flour, then it's not sticky at all. And this is exactly the texture that you're looking for. So what I want you to do, seven, is now take your 5-inch piece of butter, or margarine I should say, right there. You're going to place this in the center. Whoops. Okay, that needed to be compacted a little bit more. You're going to diamond it just like this. Okay? So if this is too big, and this is the right size, this is why I did not eat croissants for 3 years after I learned how to make them.
You're like, wow.
Yeah. So what you're going to do is lift this up and push this right here. And make sure the seam is there. Lift this up and push the seam there. If this is too wide, then you have it overlapping and it doesn't work. So you need to make sure that the thickness of the dough on top and the dough on bottom is the same. So go ahead and fold that. So again, a diamond, and so that don't stretch the corner too much. Make sure that it's fully encompassed, because when you roll this out, if you have a lot of gap because you're pulling this here, then when the butter rolls into it, you're going to have missing spots. Okay? And then do your last one there. And then I want to show you the technique, and then you guys can go to town. So you try not to overlap. You just want to bring all those seams together. Okay, now watch. Before you start rolling, everybody watch this.
Still trying to do it.
Okay. So before you start rolling, make sure it's even here. I want to go this direction because I want to end up with a rectangle anyway. Don't just start rolling. This dough is going to roll off the edge. You want to push down. Remember I showed you to do this before? This margarine is very pliable, and this is the only way that you're going to be able to get it fairly even on the inside. Okay, now I've got a lot of dough there. Oh, I can feel it. The margarine's right at the edge, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Okay? So you guys can move this to the side. We'll get to this in a second while you're doing this. And then, please don't be afraid. You need a lot more dusting flour. Please do not be afraid to use this. Because otherwise, it was going to completely stick to your rolling pin. Okay? The first one, it's going to look like it's going to come through a little bit, so really do this most of the time. Please also make sure that underneath has plenty of flour, okay, so that it does not come out and stick at all. So when you get to this point, you want it to roll together. Small little portions I'm doing here. You see this? This is about the thickness that you want this dough before we start to do the turn. I'm just going to do one turn so everyone can see, and then you guys can go and do the rest. Okay, remember we're going to be doing 4 turns on this, 4 single turns. And you're going to pretty much take up the whole length, so about the 24 inches there. We're not stuck on the bottom. It's critical, and it's also important that we are square on the edges, so always use your hands to kind of pull this out and make sure you're completely square there. You see that?
Yes.
That's the first step. Then to do a single turn. If you have a ton of extra flour, please brush it off. This is fine here. Then you're going to bring it a third. So pulling those edges so that they are completely square. Okay? And then a third. If you mismeasure this and you're way too far and then you end up like right here, just pull it back and do it again until you get it exactly so that you're not folding it over like this. Okay? It's important you don't do that. Fold it over here. Pull these edges to the corner. And we kind of have a very similar thing we started with. Then we take this and we turn it and we go this direction again. Again, starting in the beginning here, push it down and then roll it out. As this gets incorporated a little bit more, you will see that there will be less of that huge chunk of margarine there. But 4 turns, but I think after